Hey everybody, Wayne here. In today's overview and review, we're going to take a look at Hidden Strike American Revolution. Hidden Strike American Revolution is a light, card-driven strategy wargame that recreates the struggle between the American colonists and the British forces during the War of Independence. It's designed by Maurice Suckling and Dorian and published by Worthington. Although I'm looking at this game through the lens of a solitaire player, the game does feature multiple other modes of play. Specifically, there is a co-op mode against the British bot, there's a trader mode, a versus, American versus British, and then a mastermind mode. Before I go any further, I do want to thank Worthington for providing this review copy to me to show off to you guys. And even more importantly, I want to thank you guys who have been watching my videos, commenting, subscribing, giving thumbs up to videos, especially the subscribers. Comment, when you comment on my videos, that means a lot. Sharing your opinion, dislikes, likes, questions, future games you want, whatever thoughts you want to share, having conversation. I think that means a lot to me, and it really shows anyone that we are putting out good videos and you guys enjoy them. So I really appreciate that. In addition, before I dive into the overview here, two things. One, this review will follow the usual format. So I'm going to do my overview, but it will be a quick one because I have a full tutorial playthrough. So a recon video has already been posted and I have a full tutorial playthrough already posted. So check those out if you want an in-depth view, overview and how to play the game. I play through an entire game, describing my actions as I play. So the overview here will be a little short. I'll do my pros and cons with the cons first and then wrap up with my final thoughts. But I think that's it for now. Let's go ahead and jump into that overview. All right, for the overview, you can see I have the board set up here, and this is the actual initial game setup. I will look at the board, the regions, we'll take a quick look at the troops, quick look at the cards before we dive into the rest of the review. So, in Hidden Strike American Revolution, each side is trying to win the war by controlling a majority of the regions. You can see there are 6 regions here, from Canada in the north all the way to the southern colonies here in the south. You play cards from your hand. If you are the American player, the British, you're going to be drawing. And remember, I'm looking at this game right now from the solitaire perspective. I don't have the time to cover, every mode in the game. There are those different modes I mentioned before. But in the solitaire game, you are playing cards. From your draw deck, you will have a hand of 3 cards. You're playing from your hand. The British are going to be basically drawing one at a time, unless a card has you draw more than one. There are rules for that. And then it's going to be having you deploy troops, playing events, taking some sort of action, maybe promoting your troops, whatever the case may be, or maybe even just discarding and redrawing up. And then your turn's done, over to the British. The British play their card or cards, back to you, etc. Back and forth, back and forth. Your goal ultimately is to control 4 regions. If the British reach 3, that means there's only 3 left. And you do that by resolving them, and I'll explain that in a second. But if the British get to 3, you're going to lose because there's only 6 regions, right? You're obviously not going to be able to get to 4. So you have to get 4. The most the British could ever have would be 2. To resolve a region, so to take control of it, generally going to need 8 troops. And I'll show you the blocks here in a second, the actual troops. You're going to need 8 troop strength or 8 troop points in a certain region. And you're going to need to be at least 2 clear, the game calls it, which really this means higher than the enemy. So assuming, say, we as Americans reach 8 in mid-Atlantic, the British have 7, we still are going to need at least 1 more. We're going to have to get to 9, and assuming they stay at 7. Otherwise, if we get to 8 and they're at 6 or less, you're going to go ahead and resolve the region. And then you're able to go ahead and take a card here, British controlled, American control, just pick the side and go ahead and place it over. That region is now resolved. And generally speaking, apologies for the sound of the truck going by. I'm sure you guys heard that in the video. It is now nice weather for the first time, nice weather in a while here. So I actually have the windows open, but it's one of the downsides of it, right? I actually hear the outside. So anyway, that is how you control the regions. Now, or when you control them and you go ahead and resolve them and you are locking them down, and generally the forces that are there remain there for the most part. There are 1 or 2 exceptions. Talk about troops. So the game has troops for both sides. And let's go ahead and just grab a bunch of the different extra blocks I have here. Let's look at a couple key things here as we look at these. So you can see the smaller blocks here, they're really just cubes. There's a red one, that's British, blue here for the American militia. You have a slightly larger one, basically the two of those put together, right? Oh, let me make sure you guys can see on the camera. Each of the smaller ones is worth 1. That double one is worth 2. And this big bad boy here is worth 3. Pretty simple. As you look at them, you can kind of see. Makes perfect sense. It's super easy to keep track of. It's not really a worry. When I first started, I was wondering, oh, how am I going to keep track of that? Well, 1, 2, 3. It's pretty much 2 of them stuck together, then 3 of them stuck together. Simple enough. The colors are going to tell you, is it American militia, American Minutemen? Is it British regulars? Is it British Grenadiers? Is it and then you have also, by the way, besides the armies, you're going to have fleets. The fleets, you either have the British fleets or Allied fleets. There are little kind of harbor spots or little fleet spots here. Those are going to control whether a region is getting blockaded. If a region is blockaded, so if it's in the Americans, you have Allied fleets, and the British don't have a fleet there, it's blockaded. The British are not going to be able to reinforce or deploy any British Army forces here. Hessians, Dragoons, Grenadiers, etc. They're not going to be able to deploy them from Britain into the colonies, so that's going to really help you. However, they're going to go ahead and be trying to place their fleets to get rid of your blockade. Now, I think I mentioned that the troops, so they get deployed, and generally what happens is you have your local ones here. By the way, let me cover the local ones quick. So besides those big boxes, you have the local force pools here. You have things like Loyalist American Militia, loyal to the British, Native American troops that are loyal to the British, also Native American troops that are loyal to the Americans here, and you have your American Militia getting deployed. So even if you have an area blockaded, the British are still going to be able to deploy from their local force pool because, again, those are troops that are already basically there in America. They just have to be moved directly into the conflict zone right here. Again, that's kind of a quick overview of it. And, well, actually, you know what? Before I get into it, let me look at a card here just to show you guys the cards quick. So what I meant by playing cards, right? Well, how do you deploy? How do you do that? You have some cards here. So here's some American cards. You see American forces. And what the cards are going to have is they're going to have basically sort of some text on top that tells you, okay, Canadian Department, Stockbridge Mohicans. Then it'll say troop. Then it'll say what region. And then it's going to have some information down here. These are pretty simple. They're pretty simple to read, pretty simple to use. For instance, let's look at this card here. So this is an American card, Canadian Department, troop in Canada. Now you can see it'll have the actual force. See, so you can see the sort of the double side block, the 2-point block here, the 1-point block on that one, and it's the one in Canada. So you can see when you look way up here in Canada, you can see there is a 2-block American. That's saying you can deploy the regulars, and that's what it says, deploy the regulars, because the 2-block American, that's a regular army. Deploy the regulars from Canada's local force pool. So you can go ahead and deploy them from the local force pool and move them into the actual conflict zone. Same thing with something like this, the Stockbridge Mohicans. So you have Native American troops in New England, and you can see them right there. You can go ahead and deploy them into the local force pool. You're going to be playing cards like that, right? Now you're going to have cards that can deploy fleets. And once you get your allied fleets in an area, you can move allied armies into that area. Have to have an allied fleet there first. You get your fleets first, you're blocking the British forces. You are trying to build up your armies in the right areas and trying to keep the British from building theirs up. The British are going to be placing them sometimes at random. So sometimes it'll be, hey, a troop here, a troop there, a troop there. But sometimes they'll be reactive. So sometimes you'll be looking at their cards and it'll say things like, for instance, a British fleet. When they place their fleet, it's not random. They first counter a blockade. So they're looking to see, well, where we have an allied fleet. Oh, we got an allied fleet in mid-Atlantic. They're going to go there first. Other times you're going to have things like, okay, so the Loyalist Militia here in Canada. So you go ahead and deploy the Loyalist Militia in Canada. Well, if Canada is resolved, you would actually station those forces in the local force pool, so again, the small box, of the lowest numbered unresolved region, not under blockade. I know if you don't know the game exactly, it may be kind of confusing. Really that simple. Then you deploy it the following turn. So what that means is if Canada was resolved, he's basically going to move him to whatever area where that's the lowest number, not under blockade, and he's going to go ahead and reinforce there. You're also going to have British cards. They're going to say, hey, place this troop in a region, for instance, Grenadiers, where the British are closest to losing, or they're least ahead by points. That way they are reinforcing areas that they need to. So it's not just a random, well, they may be going anywhere. I mean, sometimes it is, but sometimes they're going to target a certain region. Now, what's going to happen is you learn the game and you start playing it, and you play a game or two or more, and you become familiar with the cards. And this is a bit of strategy talk here. You're going to learn combos, right? Because what you're going to have as the Americans, you're going to have cards that allow you to, if I can find one quick so I can show you guys. For instance, you can say Culper Ring event here. Deploy a Minuteman, then look at, and if desired, reorder the top 3 cards of the American draw deck. Suddenly, when you know what the cards are, you're going to be looking through saying, wait, okay, let's put this card number 1, this card 2nd, this card 3rd. There's also events that are going to, and I can't find it, but that's okay. It allows you to reorder the British cards. So then you may look at them and say, wait a second, this card, if it draws next turn, is going to resolve Canada, and I don't want that to happen. You're going to put it at the bottom of the 3. And that way, you may look at another card and say, ooh, this is going to activate, say, the Dragoons to deploy in Tidewater, but I have a fleet there, and the British don't. That means it's blockaded, so that Dragoon card is basically wasted that turn. You're going to see these strategies play out. You're going to learn how they work, and you're going to see how they play out. It's not just all random. Again, you are moving troops, filling up regions. You get to 8, with an exception of there's a siege. It goes to 12, and you need to clear by 2. You lock in a region. You now have resolved it. You control it. You get 4. You win. Now, to see the game in action and have everything explained, again, check out that tutorial playthrough that I already have uploaded to YouTube. Otherwise, that is it for the overview. All right, let's talk about my pros and cons. Cons first, as usual. So, no getting around it. The game is difficult. Honestly, starting off, frustratingly difficult. I even posted a thread on Board Game Geek because I lost my first 12 games. I think I posted my thread, I had lost my first 10. So, but I will say, now, contrary to what I've read online, and what I had, right, because I had that same feeling, I had the same thoughts, it's not impossible to win. But you do need to put time into the game to learn the cards and how they interact. I lost my first 12 games in a row, like I said. However, once I figured out how to play the cards to generate combos, I got my first win. Until you learn the cards, till you use how you can use them to boost your actions and hurt the British, boost your actions and make British actions either ineffective or literally turns where they don't do anything, you simply won't win. Not by just playing the best card in your hand or by just reacting to the British bot. It can't be a situation where, okay, the British bot's going to go ahead and put this Native American troop here deploy, so I better just put 1 there and that's that. Well, no, because they're going to be deploying 2 strength. You're going to be deploying 1 strength. That's not going to help you. In the long run, it's not. You need to have strategies developed. That does mean you need to know the cards. So, you need to strategize, maintain a flexible plan in your head as you play. Overall, like last I checked, my overall record, and I've been keeping track with this game because once I heard it was difficult, depending on the game, sometimes I don't keep track of it, but with this one I wanted to, I'm like 2-15. So my last 17 games, I'm 2-15. So I've only won twice. The 2 have come more recently, obviously. But it took me 12 games before I got a win. It was getting frustrating. I was stubborn, and I was like, I'm going to keep playing until I win. I guarantee there are people out there, though, there are gamers that will not play a game 12 complete game through. And I'm talking playthroughs all the way through from beginning to end before they give up. And I think it's fair. I don't think that that's a quitter's attitude at all. I think it's fair that if you play 12 games, 10, 11, 12 games, and you haven't won or even you've really felt like you're close to winning, it's frustrating. I agree with it because I felt it. And I think that is a con that the game is so difficult to get into. That said, yes, it is possible to win. It's just extremely difficult to do so. And you really need to learn the cards, which means you will have to play. You winning your first or second game, I would call it you're either really lucky or, well, probably just really lucky. Okay. Second thing on my cons, The cards, they're really already showing signs of wear. After what, less than 2 dozen plays, 17, 18 games, something like that. Now, the American cards, they're handled a lot more than the British. As, you know, when you're playing, you're drawing a hand of 3. You know, every turn you're drawing up to 3. You know, you're looking at your hand, you're using your hand, you're playing certain cards, you're searching from cards from the draw deck, and then you're reshuffling. All, you know, multiple times throughout the game. And it shows on the cards. So, hope you guys are able to see this. I want to get a couple specific ones. I know that, you know, if you start looking at the edges a little bit, especially if, you know, you can start seeing cards that, again, you know, are they falling apart? No. They're high quality cards. They're linen finish cards. They're good cards. And you can see that in my, the corner right there. You can see that in my actual unboxing, right? My recon of is that, hey, everything's, the components are fantastic quality. But, you know, you're starting to see, especially the edges. I mean, look at these two right here. You know, it's starting to get a little funky there, right? They're being shuffled. I had, actually, in here, even on the British here, look, I have starting to kind of, you know, and the British don't even sit there necessarily and shuffle a whole lot. Here you can see this one was starting to, just be aware of that. I would say if you care about that sort of thing, you're going to want to sleeve them. Simple as that. You know, it's a game where you're handling the cards. This isn't a game where they just, you know, maybe shuffle at the very beginning once and then you just flip and that's it. You're reshuffling, you're digging through cards, you're looking at them. You're probably going to, if you care about that, you're going to want to sleeve them. So that's it for my cons. So for my pros, the components, as usual, are fantastic. Besides the cards kind of seeing the wear, and again, I think that's just related to how much they're handled, you know, and call it a knock, and that's why I listed as con. But otherwise, overall, the components are fantastic. You have this, you know, beautiful mounted board with, it's got attractive artwork on it. It's clear, it's easy to read, you know, so you can see the Northeast, right? The North, well, I should say this is the East Coast. Let's just say the East Coast of the United States, you know, so Canada here. You know, everything's clear. You can see exactly kind of the states and the regions they're talking about. But the boxes sit on top perfectly. There's no confusion. You know, the colors on the blocks stand out. Speaking of which, you know, the colorful blocks, they're easy to tell. When I first got them, I kind of looked, I was like, man, there's all these little blocks. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm telling you, you play the game one time and you're like, oh, well, it's obvious. And it's labeled, you know, they're labeled here. You can see everything's labeled. But you get used to the colors and the sizes. Again, the 1 is 1 strength. The like double size is 2. Triple is 3. Super simple with troop strength. Not an issue. Again, I thought it would be an issue just trying to keep track of what blocks are what. Play 1 game, maybe 2. You are just fine. And speaking of playing, gameplay, it's buttery smooth. I mean, you flip a card for the British bot, you carry out the action. Then it's your turn. You have your hand of 3 cards. You know, pick one to play. You know, maybe you discard 1 or 2 for a promotion. Maybe you discard some and then draw back up. But whatever you do, you draw back up to 3 at the end of your turn. Then it's back to the British. It's back and forth, back and forth. Once you learn the game, and it really doesn't take long to learn it, it feels like you're just flying through the game. And that is, I love that. Back and forth, you know, troops are deployed, fleets are deployed, regions are getting resolved. After 2 or 3 games at the most, I put the rulebook away. I just played the game instead of having to keep my nose in the rules every turn. To me, for a solitaire game, that's always my goal. That's the sweet spot, you know. Leave the rulebook hunting, you know, for citations in the rulebook for like competitive 2-player games. Now, I like to play correctly for my solitaire games. Don't get me wrong. I'm not one who kind of is like, well, I'll play however I want because it's my game. I don't like that attitude. And I don't like it when designers say, well, it's your game, play it how you want. No, I want to play it how you have given me the rules and you've given me to play it. But with this one, you can learn it and you can be playing it solitaire on your own very quickly. And simply put, that's kudos to the designers on that one. They have done a great job with this. So, last thing for my pros, errata. I don't even think there is any. I don't know if I've found any. You know, maybe there's something on a card or 2. I mean, I'm telling you, I've been playing it. Like I said, I've played 17 games at least, all the way through games too. It doesn't include my usual. I usually play a cut of 1 or 2 like kind of beginner games when I first am learning, and I'll stop halfway through and reset. That's just 17 complete games all the way through. I can't think of a single errata in the rules or the cards. I mean, it doesn't exist, but that just shows you how few they must be and how much they must not really matter. So The game, from what I've heard from the designer, the game and rules, they've been refined over years, and it shows. And I think that really deserves a mention. All right, guys, you made it this far. Time for my final thoughts. Hidden Strike American Revolution, in my opinion, is the definition of a beginner wargame. It combines fast gameplay with simple mechanics, all brought together with a nice historical theme. Not only that, it's a game that I think most regular board gamers will be comfortable with. You know, from the high quality mounted board, the linen finished cards, the colored wooden blocks used to represent the troops and the fleets. Those who play more mainstream board games, I don't think they'll have any trouble easing into this one. This isn't the type of game that, you know, when it gets put onto the table, board gamers look at and they go, ugh, a war game. Or like, I don't even know what this means. Little chits with numbers on them, which, don't get me wrong, I love those types of games too. But that can be intimidating, right? When you don't know what that means. We don't know what those little chits with numbers on them mean. It's intimidating. This one doesn't give off that vibe. I feel like when it sits on the table and it's set up like this, right, and this is the starting setup again, I mean, I think that a regular board gamer is more likely to ask, you know, hey, what's that? Like, what's that game? They're not going to think war game publisher, this or that. They're going to think it's a game. And I think that that's a good compliment to the design, good compliment to the production, and it really shows also where this game and who it's designed for, where it should be going, who it's designed for. You know, it's not for the grognard. And, you know, I don't like to say the term of like, some people say, well, the game isn't for you. It's for anyone who wants to play it. But just keep in mind, kind of, you can tell pretty quick what the design is, and it's not a con that it's a beginner war game. It's not a con that it's for more, you know, it's maybe a little more family friendly, right? A little bit more easy to play. That's not a con. That's just the type of game it is. So just be aware of that. I will say that I remain intrigued by the possibilities of the game modes that involve other players. So, you know, I've played it Solitaire only, and I have enjoyed it. However, I feel like it's probably likely to really shine, probably the most, as a multiplayer game. Fun as single player. I would not have played it. I would not have played, you know, 17 full games if I was stubborn. Yes, but when a game is not fun, I simply stop playing it and I'm done with it. I'm not going to waste my time. My time's too precious. I played through 17 and I'm going to play some more too because I'm hoping I can start getting some more wins. That said, those looking for, you know, a simulation, they're going to need to look elsewhere. You know, if you couldn't tell by now. However, I can easily recommend this game to those who are, you know, new to wargaming. So I'd say if, you know, you want to recommend a new, you know, a game for a new one, or hey, I'm new to war games, or you want to recommend to somebody, great one to check out. Also for those who want to introduce historical gaming to non-wargaming friends or family, I think it'd be super quick, super easy to, you know, hey, you know, your spouse, your significant other, your friends that maybe aren't really into wargaming, maybe you're getting into it, kind of want to ease them into it a little bit. Hey, here's a game, you know, history. We love history, right? That's part of the reason we're all into this and we're playing these games is we love history. Well, this game has plenty of history. It has, you know, history is written on the board. It's in the cards. You're seeing it, you know, seeing it in the artwork. You know, you're seeing it in the cards with, you know, the founding fathers on them. I mean, you know, is it dripping historical? Is it could this engine only be used for this game, for this theme? No, you could put a different theme on this, I think, and you could be successful. But when you're playing it, wasn't thinking that. I wasn't thinking, you know, that Euro game style of, I'm just kind of pushing around cubes and it could be anything. No, I felt like I was moving Loyalist Militia. I felt like I was putting British forces in action. Again, not a simulation. However, you get that good historical feeling with it. So, you know, wrapped up, final thoughts. Yeah, I mean, if you want a, you know, lighter, quick playing strategy game with a good solid theme and fantastic components, this is for you. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this overview and review. Again, to see the game really in action, check out my tutorial playthrough. Check out the recon for the full unboxing. Other than that, I hope you'd enjoyed the video. Let me know below, you know, if you played this, you thinking about getting it. I've already seen some comments of people who picked up the game based on kind of my tutorial and recon. Love to see that. Love to hear that. And the publishers do too, right? They want to know that these games are being seen by people and that people are interested in them. please, post below if that's the case. Or if, hey, if you don't like it, and tell me why, though. Tell me why. Don't just say, well, it's too light for me. I mean, I guess you could say that, and that's fair, right? Maybe the game is too light for you, but I want to hear your thoughts, whatever they may be. Thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, later.